The Tailor and His Sons. Once upon a time, there was a tailor who had 3 sons. The oldest, the second oldest, and the youngest. They all lived together in a small house. The tailor had a goat that gave them milk, which was their main food. One day, the tailor asked his oldest son to take the goat to the best grass fields to graze. At the end of the day, the son asked the goat if it had eaten enough. The goat said yes, but when they returned home, the goat told the tailor it had not eaten enough. The tailor was very upset and told his oldest son to leave the house. The same thing happened with the second oldest son and then the youngest son. Each time, the goat would say it had eaten enough when asked by the son, but would tell the tailor it had not eaten enough when they got home. The tailor, believing the goat, sent each of his sons away. The tailor discovers the truth. One day, the tailor decided to take the goat to the grass fields himself. When he asked the goat if it had eaten enough, the goat said no, even though it had been grazing all day. The tailor realized he had been tricked by the goat. Angry, the tailor shaved the goat bare and used his whip to drive it out of the house. Now, the tailor was alone and missed his sons. The oldest son. The oldest son went to work for a furniture maker. After learning the craft, his master gave him a magic table as a gift. Whenever he said, "Table, deck yourself," the table would fill with the finest food and wine. Excited, the son decided to travel home to show his father the magic table. On his way, he stopped at an inn and demonstrated the table's powers to the innkeeper. However, that night, the innkeeper stole the magic table and replaced it with a normal one. When the son arrived home, he tried to show his father the magic table, but nothing happened. The tailor was upset again, not knowing what had happened. The second son. The second son went to work for a miller. His master gave him a magical donkey that could produce gold from its mouth and behind when he said, "Bricklebrit." The second son also decided to travel home and stopped at the same inn. He showed the innkeeper the donkey's powers, but that night, the innkeeper stole the magical donkey and replaced it with a normal one. When the second son arrived home, he tried to show his father the donkey's powers, but instead of gold, the donkey produced droppings like an ordinary donkey. The tailor was upset once more. The youngest son. The youngest son went to work for a wood turner. His master gave him a magic cudgel in a sack. Whenever someone was unjust, the owner could say, "Cudgel, out of the sack," and the cudgel would start hitting the wrong door. To stop it, the owner would say, "Cudgel, in the sack." The youngest son learned from his brother's letters about what had happened at the inn. When he visited the inn, he did not show the cudgel's powers but kept it a secret. The curious innkeeper tried to look into the sack at night, but the youngest son was ready. He ordered the cudgel to beat the innkeeper until he returned the stolen magic table and donkey. The sons return home. With the magic table, the golden donkey, and the cudgel, the youngest son returned home. He told his father everything that had happened and demonstrated the powers of the magic objects. The tailor was finally happy and made peace with his sons. From that day on, the family used the magic table for food, the golden donkey for gold, and the cudgel to protect themselves. They lived a rich and happy life together. The goat's fate. After being driven out, the shaved goat hid in a fox's hole. The fox, scared by the goat's eyes, asked a bear for help. The bear was also too frightened to go in. Finally, they took a bee along, which stung the goat, causing it to run away in pain. Nobody knows where the goat went after that. And so, the tailor and his sons lived happily ever after, thanks to the magic table, the golden donkey, and the cudgel in the sack. Emily's secret. Emily's life. Emily was a little girl who lived in a small town with her family. She had a mother, a father, and a younger brother named Tim. Emily loved her family very much and enjoyed playing with her brother. The secret. Emily had a big secret. She loved to draw and paint, but she was too shy to show anyone her artwork. Every day after school, Emily would go to her room and draw beautiful pictures. She drew trees, flowers, birds, and even her family. The teacher's curiosity. One day, Emily's teacher, Mrs. Johnson, noticed that Emily always seemed a bit distant during class. Mrs. Johnson asked Emily if everything was okay, but Emily just smiled and said she was fine. Discovering the secret. One afternoon, Mrs. Johnson decided to visit Emily's home to see if she could find out what was bothering her. When she arrived, Emily's mother invited her in. Mrs. Johnson saw Emily's room and noticed all the beautiful drawings on the walls. "Wow, Emily, these are amazing!" Mrs. Johnson exclaimed. Emily was surprised and a bit embarrassed. "I didn't know you could see them," she said. Fixing the issue. Mrs. Johnson sat down with Emily and asked her why she didn't share her drawings with anyone. Emily explained that she was afraid people might not like them. Mrs. Johnson smiled and said, "Emily, your drawings are wonderful. Everyone will love them. Why don't we have an art show at school to share your talent with everyone?" Emily's eyes lit up. She had never thought of that before. The art show. The next week, Mrs. Johnson and Emily organized an art show at school. They hung up all of Emily's drawings in the school hall, and everyone was invited to come and see them. On the day of the art show, Emily was very nervous. But when she saw all her friends and teachers admiring her drawings, she felt proud and happy. "Emily, these are incredible," said one of her friends. "I love the colors you used," said another. Emily realized that sharing her secret had brought her closer to her friends and made her feel more confident. The happy ending. From that day on, Emily was no longer shy about her drawings. She continued to create beautiful artwork and shared it with everyone. Her family and friends were always supportive, and Emily learned that sometimes sharing your secrets can lead to wonderful things. The cat and the dog. There was a cat and a dog. They were friends. They lived in a house together. The cat's habits. The cat liked to sleep. She would sleep all day. She loved her bed and would curl up in it every afternoon. The dog's habits. The dog liked to play. He would run around the house and bark loudly. He loved playing with his ball. Their daily routine. Every morning, the cat and the dog would wake up together. The dog would go outside to play, and the cat would stay inside to sleep. Their friendship. Despite their different habits, the cat and the dog were very good friends. They would eat together and sometimes even play together. A fun day. One sunny day, the dog decided to wake the cat up from her nap. "Let's go outside and play," he barked excitedly. The cat stretched and yawned. "Okay, but just for a little while," she said. They went to the garden and played together. The dog ran around, and the cat chased after him. They had a lot of fun. Back home. After a while, the cat and the dog went back home. The cat was tired and went back to her bed to sleep. The dog lay down next to her and soon fell asleep too. The happy ending. The cat and the dog lived happily ever after. They enjoyed each other's company and respected their different habits.